Good evening. We'll call this meeting to order. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Al, if you could do roll call, please.
Okay, and this is roll call for the regularly scheduled City Commission meeting of March 22nd. Benson.
Benson here.
Benson is present. Brunig.
Brunig here.
Brunig is present. Sarda.
Sarda here.
Sarda is present. Maibaum.
Maibaum is present.
Maibaum is present. Moser.
Mosier here.
Moser is present. Schramm.
Schramm here.
Schramm is present. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson present.
Mayor Johnson is present. City Manager Leon.
Leon is here.
City Manager Leon is present. City Attorney Denherter.
Denherter is here.
City Attorney Denherter is present.
You have before you the minutes of the regular meeting of March 8th, 2021. What is your pleasure?
Schramm, so moved.
Second Mosier.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. And any abstaining? The motion passes.
We're all so thrown off.
Sorry, we'll get used to this. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the commission. You already heard that for some of our agenda items, we have a new way that we're allowed to take the vote, so that won't be the case for everything, but hopefully that'll help you get through your business a little bit more expeditiously and get people on their way. Absentee voting began today at City Hall, and we already had some folks who cast their votes, so we ask folks that aren't going to join us either at Fire Station 2 or City Hall on Election Day, which is April 13th, Tuesday, April 13th, that they come to City Hall and vote for City Commission. Later on in your consent calendar, you see that we are talking about the commission forums, and we doubled up a little bit because we just didn't quite understand the setup when we put together the agenda. Right in your consent calendar, you have 3 possible quorum events. Items number 3 and 4 are actually the same event. It's at 7 p.m. So there's just one forum on April the 6th, and it's at 7 p.m. It's those two should be combined. So I just didn't want to confuse the media or the public about the events themselves. I want to talk a little bit about sales tax. I do believe it was covered in the media, but I want to visit a little bit with you about it. We did receive our sales tax from February. We were up 2.58% in February, which brings us to for the year end so far, our cumulative difference of 4.15% up. That is the direction we'd like to be going. It's nice, even in what's typically a slow and short month, to see a positive number there. We did still have a little bit of well, our gap was getting smaller in the triple B. We were down 1.58% for the month, and cumulative down 2.7%, but we're closing that gap, I guess, when it comes to sales tax. So that's a very positive thing. I hope that continues. It should continue, given the amount of sporting events and activities that have gone on in our community the last couple of months, and now the weather's getting warmer, the days are getting longer, more people are getting vaccinated and feeling like they're wanting to move around about. So I'm hoping that's a good indication of a good things to come. So we appreciate everybody's support shopping local during the pandemic, and we hope that strong sense of community continues on into this year. Other things to talk about, in the commission information memorandum, we're talking about citywide cleanup and all the information that we usually put out holds, so we encourage people to take a look at our website and social media for information on citywide cleanup. Curbside is going to begin the 19th of April. So a little later this year. We're trying to avoid the Easter holiday weekend. We ask that folks don't put things out early because we don't want it to look like a yard sale. It's a cleanup, so we would like things just to come out for the cleanup, and we'll take them away. Regular garbage routes that week. If people have questions, 5211, 668-5211, or take a look at our website. Exciting information from the state. If you hadn't seen it, we were asked to keep this to ourselves until they made the announcement, and they have, so we can share. I knew about it a little earlier. As many of you know, I sit on the state E911 board, but they've been working some time on a text to 911 possibility for our state. So that is effective today. So texting to 911 has started today, and it is available in Yankton. So folks can use texting to contact 911 if they need to. There's information on our website, or excuse me, on our social media, Facebook, about that. But I wanted to let people know that texting to 911 should be used if people cannot safely make a call. So if there would be an active shooting, domestic violence, home invasion, abduction, something like that. They give us examples. It's also really useful for people who might be deaf, hard of hearing, or may have difficulty speaking or communicating. So that's another asset to texting to 911. If people need to text 911, it's very easy. You just enter 911 in that recipient field. You include your location. You know, here's who I am, and here's my location, and here's the emergency. You can text 911 from any cell phone that has an active text plan. So it's not necessarily like calling where everyone can make an emergency call. You have to have an active texting plan on that phone. Voice call is the most reliable way to reach 911. So you can reach 911, by texting, but if you can call, they encourage you to call. So if it's safe for you to call, you should. If you can't, because you don't want to make noise or for whatever other reason, then texting is an option for you. Also, very important, because it's in bold print here, that don't text and drive. They're not condoning texting and driving. If you come across an accident or see somebody texting, don't text 911 to say someone's texting or something like that. But I think this is a nice tool for people, and I think it will be an asset. We'll let you know. I'll visit with Dwayne and Julia about if it's being used in our community and how that's working. But that is something available now in South Dakota. So I think that's good news for folks. If they have an emergency, they can contact 911 that way. People should also know that you don't have to call 911. We do have non-emergency numbers for non-emergencies. So, if you just need to talk to an officer or something like that, there's information on our website on how you can just contact us on the non-emergency dispatch, police department dispatch number. But good news from the police department. I'm going to share part of the good news, and Chief Harris is going to share the other part of our good news from the police department. We had a sergeant's position open, and we're pleased to announce that Officer Rob Beekler has been promoted to sergeant. He will get his stripes in a little internal ceremony, but he's been with our department for a number of years. He'll make a great addition to the leadership team. And for the other announcement, I will leave that to Chief Harris. Yes, I think so.
The annual meeting of the South Dakota Chiefs and Sheriffs have a convention, and at that convention we actually recognize officers in our state that have done outstanding work, and we also recognize citizens in the state that have done things that are outstanding. We actually nominated one of our officers for Officer of the Year. Officer Dylan Wilson was nominated and then accepted as Officer of the Year. He will be recognized at that convention April 21st. In addition, we also nominated Kevin and Courtney Opsel for the Citizen of the Year for their event that they held for the police department in the summer. And they were also then selected for the Citizens of the Year for the South Dakota Chiefs and Sheriffs Association. So we're pretty excited about that. That's a statewide recognition.
That's outstanding. And thank you for your work in making those nominations, because they don't win if they're not nominated. So very deserving. Thank you.
We're excited about that, and it is very prestigious to be named as Officer of the Year, and to have, 2 award winners from Yankton like that is a big deal. So we're pretty proud of that. We plan to make sure that gets the attention it deserves. Couple last things here. First, apology to Commissioners Sarda and Maibaum. They asked me for meeting links while I was up at the podium, and I didn't have my phone with me. I was nervous about the work session, wanting it to go smoothly, and I didn't bring my phone up, so that's probably why they didn't log in right away. So I will self-report and give them my apologies. Next time I'll take my phone with me. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about our internal, how we're doing internally with COVID-19. As you saw today in my email, we do have one employee that tested positive for COVID-19 today. That's the first one we've had in a long time. Our work group opened today, essentially, for vaccinations, being critical workers. So today was technically this day one of our work group. Because of our hard work and diligence and our employees being on the, I guess, proactive side of their health and concern about their coworkers' health, we have only 7 employees left that that have indicated they want to have the COVID-19 vaccine that are not signed up yet. So we're doing really well. Of course, we had a large share that are first responders who were able to go a little early. Working with Avera, Walmart, and Hy-Vee, we've done really, really well. Colleen Bailey has helped lead that initiative to work with employees individually based on perhaps their age. They were a little bit earlier than some of us, or they've worked on their own too if they were to have that underlying condition. So we're really pleased with that because it was really important to us all through this that we took a proactive approach, and so we're really pleased with that. We are still at the library helping others who maybe don't understand how to get onto a vaccine site or understand how to register. If they're willing to share their information, our staff will help them walk through that or give them options as to where they can connect with a vaccine. So we're excited about that and excited to start walking back a little bit once we've all gone past our couple weeks of wait time following our second doses to get back to a little more regular business. So we're doing that. You'll start seeing some of those things. We have a committee that's going to give me some recommendations in the next week or so on things like meeting in groups and masking. Some of the things, are small things, but they're important to us. We have a potluck culture at the city, and we like our potlucks. Those will probably come back. We think they can come back. They'll probably always have hand sanitizer now at the front of the line, but we're going to go back to some of those things, and we feel confident that when the science supports that we can definitely do those things again. So big things and little things, we're looking forward to making those changes and opening back up. We'll talk a little bit about numbers more later on in your meeting when we talk about the health board findings. So that's all I have this evening, unless commissioners have specific questions for me.
Commission, any questions for the city manager? I do have one. Amy, are you able to say if we're seeing much vaccine hesitancy amongst employees?
I would say no. We had a number of employees maybe who were eligible early on that wanted to wait a bit or wanted to find out more information that have since then decided to sign up for vaccine. Other than that, I think most of us were very anxious about the opportunity for vaccine. And we have some, as I'm sure everybody does amongst work groups, that maybe have a health condition or reason why they don't want the vaccine or a concern about vaccine. But I would say that's definitely not the majority of people. So I think everyone's ready to get their shot and for the most part get their shot and be back to work and be back to normal things they do when they're off work too. So
Well, I think that's excellent news, and thank you to, I know Colleen Bailey has worked very hard in your office to make sure that when there was an opportunity for employees to get vaccinated, that they knew about it and we were ready for it. So everyone who's been involved in that education and operationalization of that process, thank you very much. Once again, any questions before we move on? All right. And it's time for public appearances. This is when members of the public can address the commission about items not on tonight's agenda. So if there is something that you would like to address us about, please step up to the podium. Seeing no movement in the room here. Dave, is there anything on YouTube that we should be aware of?
There are no comments on YouTube.
Okay. Then we will move on to the consent item agenda. Number 1 is establishing April 12th, 2021 as the date for the public hearing on the request for a special events on sale liquor license for June 12th, 2012 from Rock and Rumble, doing business as Yankton Rib Fest. And number 2 is a possible quorum event. March 30th, 2021 is when there will be a city commission candidate forum at the Discovery Church starting at 6 p.m. There will be no official commission action. And number 3 is another possible quorum event at 7 p.m. April 6th. A city commission candidate forum will be held virtually, I believe. Yes, virtually, by interchange in the Chamber of Commerce. And again, no official commission action will take place. Can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Benson, so moved. Second, Mosier.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission? Dave, anyone on YouTube?
No comments on YouTube.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Any abstaining? Motion passes. Moving on to old business, a health board update. Amy.
thank you. Honorable Mayor, members of the commission. Couple of notes here for you this evening. I did send you the updated metrics, which will appear on the screen, I believe, perhaps, thank you, Dwayne, for today. The health board did meet. Avera Sacred Heart is reporting just one hospitalization today due to COVID-19 complications. Our case numbers have gone up a bit. They've gone up from 41, which was the active case numbers on 3/15, to 64 active case numbers today on 3/22. So that is not the direction we want to be headed. We talked a little bit about that on the health board today. Thank you, Dwayne. And what that could mean. But of course, just like all of this, nobody really can say. We hope and anticipate that this may just be a little bit wavy, our case rate up and down a little bit here as we head into spring. But we're going to keep an eye on that. No different recommendations for you all other than to just know that at this time. Our vaccinations, as a community, we're getting further along here. 25%, or I think it's 24%, have received at least, or have received both doses of vaccine, and then 14% at least one dose. So we're about, getting close to 35% here who have at least received one dose of vaccine. We do not believe still that this number includes the federal pharmacy program, so that number is definitely stronger than that. So that's a good thing, and that'll only continue to increase. We did not have any recommendation for you at this time, other than just to hear from you, and if you had different direction from us. Still encouraging people to take the vaccine and continue with the CDC guidelines for activity once you've had your vaccine, and for good hygiene. We will be meeting again next Monday, that's the 29th. We plan to either reschedule or cancel the meeting on April 6th because a number of us will not be around, and one of them is a voting member who won't be around, so probably makes good sense to change that date of that health board meeting. So unless there's questions for the health board, I think that's just kind of the status progress report.
Any questions? Maybe it's kind of a side issue, but to remind the commission, so city holidays, do employees get Good Friday and Easter Monday, or is it just one or the other?
No, it's neither.
Okay.
She said emphatically, if the
Sore
commission
subject
would
then.
like to reconsider that, I'm sure there'd be a number of employees who wouldn't mind that, but no, those aren't considered holidays according to our schedule. Some folks have chosen to use personal leave to celebrate that holiday with their family.
A good reminder in any case. Thank you. Number 2 under old business is a public hearing to consider memorandum 21-47 and resolution 21-10, an alley right-of-way vacation request in the north-south alley between 8th Street and 9th Street, between Dakota Street and Redmond Street. Yankton Medical Clinic is the applicant and the adjacent property owner. What is your pleasure?
So moved, Mosher.
Brunick, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Dave, any comments on YouTube?
There are no comments on YouTube.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
Again, this is roll call on old business item 3-2. Moser.
Mosher, aye.
Moser's aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson's aye. Brunig.
Brunick, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda. Sarda's aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Old business item 3-2 passes 7-0.
Number 3 under old business is consideration of memorandum 21-45 regarding the second reading and public hearing for the kennel ordinance number 1048. What is your pleasure?
Brunick, so moved.
Benson, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Ross, for the public's benefit, can you walk us again through what's being proposed?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. This is an opportunity to beef up the city's current kennel licensing structure. Currently, we don't have good tools in the toolbox to provide a minimum standard for operating places that board animals or sell animals. Over the years, as the city has received complaints about one facility or another, we haven't been able to adequately address those complaints. So we already have a kennel licensing structure. It doesn't really do much at the present time. So this is an opportunity to just use what we already have, make it fit what we need to give us those tools. So in essence, the key change initially was to expand the definition of what constitutes a kennel. So now Under the expanded definition, any location in the city that houses 4 or more adult dogs or 6 or more adult domesticated animals of any species for any portion of the calendar year for purposes of sale to the public in association with a nonprofit or for-profit enterprise, including but not limited to professional breeding or boarding operations, pet daycare facilities, pet sitting facilities and pet stores, or operations that exhibit animals, operations that trade animals for a fee, or animal rescue organizations. Those would all now be considered within the expanded definition of a kennel. As drafted, however, we did think to make sure that we provided proper exceptions for hospitals, clinics, or other premises operated by a licensed veterinarian, which has its own licensing structure through the state, as well as people well trained to care for those animals. The city pound is exempted. Now, having said that, the Heartland Humane Society, which operates our pound for us, voluntarily goes through the kennel licensing process, even though they're outside of city limits. So what we're applying to others, we also essentially apply to ourselves voluntarily. Services provided in a pet owner's home are excluded from this, including in-home pet grooming and in-home pet sitting services, and also grooming salons not offering professional breeding or boarding or daycare or pet sitting services. So your dog groomer where you drop your dog off and pick it up 4 hours clean and trimmed are not included in this operation. In order to get a kennel license, a kennel facility must submit an application, pay a fee, pass an inspection, and maintain minimum facility standards in order to maintain the license. Along with, or similar to the way we do other business licensing here in the community, the city manager will have certain factors that she needs to consider. If the license is denied, there is a right to appeal that denial to this commission. And then you guys will have the benefit of or the burden of determining whether a license should be issued. Licenses are for a period of 1 year, just like our other business licenses in the community, and they are non-transferable. Even after a license is issued, if there are complaints, for instance, a premises is open to inspection. Again, it's one of the requirements of the license. You gotta make sure that you're willing to allow the city to inspect as necessary on an ongoing basis. And facilities that do not meet the appropriate standard, even after a license is issued, may be subject to have that license revoked. There is a procedure under our ordinances that allows for business licenses to be revoked generally, and that's the procedure that we're just latching onto. There is a criminal penalty for operating a kennel without a license if one is required. That's new here. And also, if you operate a kennel without a license, it's deemed a public nuisance. When the city declares certain activity to be a public nuisance, there are tools in the toolbox for enforcement that are opened up that weren't previously available. This particular ordinance in the structure that you see it before was provided to those entities in the community that we've identified as being subject to it, and we did not receive any concerns or complaints back. It was also shared with the Humane Society, and the comments were also positive. So to this point in time, no negative comments, and I think it's in a condition that you guys can pass if you're comfortable with it.
Any commission discussion?
I just have one. You mentioned inspections. Who is designated to do inspections of these facilities?
The way it's set up now, it's the city manager's designee. So that is kind of a hot potato that we're still trying to nail down at the staff level, but we will sort that out shortly. There's pros and cons in the different departments, and still trying to find the right home for that.
Ross, you had said in-home boarding and in-home grooming were exempt. In-home breeding is not exempt.
I'll go back and read that to you again. It's in-home services provided in the pet owner's home, including in-home pet grooming and pet sitting. And I think that got a little confused because the one that came after it is grooming salons not offering professional breeding, boarding, pet daycare, or pet sitting.
I guess I'm maybe still a little confused.
Would also be exempt.
So the in-home breeding would require a license.
Yeah, if you're operating a
To sell.
breeding facility, you
Yeah,
would be a
in-home,
kennel,
okay.
correct?
Any more commission discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Dave, any comments on YouTube?
There are no comments on YouTube.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on old business item 3-3. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Benson.
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Brunig.
Brunick, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, I.
Mosier is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Old business item 3-3 passes 7-0.
Moving on to new business, number one is consideration of memorandum 21-46, approving the recommendation of election workers for the City of Yankton election on April 13th, 2021, and establishing the compensation for said election workers. What is your pleasure?
So moved, Mosier.
Schramm, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item?
This is Commissioner Mybom. I just have a quick question as far as the election workers potentially being eligible for vaccinations, simply because they could fall under the finance department and being part of that, the essential workers, I suppose. So however that could get communicated to them, it might be worthwhile for them to know that they could be eligible at this point in time.
Sure, this is Amy, Commissioner Mybom. We can reach out to Avera and see if, I think they would fall under that criteria. And if those individuals have not yet been vaccinated, I don't know who they all are, but we could talk with them and see if we could get them connected. Now, they probably, even if we were able to get them, depending upon the type of vaccination, they wouldn't be fully vaccinated by the time of our election just because of the time frame. But if we could even get them their first inoculation, if they haven't had it already, we would do so. That's a good idea. So I'll talk with Colleen in the finance office and we'll see what we can do.
Any more commission discussion? We have no one in the audience, so Dave, I will go to you. Any YouTube comments?
Still no comments on YouTube.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on new business item 4-1. Benson.
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Brunig.
Brunick, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, I.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-1 passes 7-0.
Number two under new business is consideration of memorandum 21-48 regarding resolution 21-21, a plat of the south side of the 2500 block of the 1600 block of West 25th Street. Johansson Contracting, Inc. is the owner. What is your pleasure?
Benson, so moved.
Brunick, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? There's no one here in the audience, so Dave, I will go to you. Any YouTube comments?
No comments on YouTube.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
This is roll call on new business item 4-2. Brunig.
Brunick, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier's aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-2 passes 7-0.
Number 3 under new business is consideration of memorandum 21-49 regarding resolution 21-22, a plat of 3010 Piper Street. WDM Properties LLC is the owner. What is your pleasure?
Mosier, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? There's no one in the audience, so Dave, I will go to you. Any YouTube comments?
No comments on YouTube.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
This is roll call on new business item 4-3. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda's aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier's aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson's aye. Brunig.
Brunig, aye.
Brunig is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-3 passes 9-0.
Number 4 under new business is consideration of memorandum 20-50 regarding resolution 21-23, a funding for Mount Marty University. This is $7,000 from our Business Improvement District number 1 to offset costs associated with the relocation of the 2021 NAIA Indoor Track and Field Championships. What is your pleasure?
Schramm, so moved.
Sarda, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item?
Could somebody off bid just clarify, in reading this, they are to go to the CVB to request funds and we make up the difference of what they don't get from the CVB? Or how does that work in what was stated in our commission packet?
I'd be happy to try and take that question. The action, in the discussion prior to the action by the bid board, there was a comment that the bid board has provided money to the CVB to date, and there was some idea that there may be $10,000 or $11,000 of event-related money that the CVB has access to that was provided by the bid. So, without having any CVB member at the meeting, the discussion by the bid board was to have an investigation first to see if any of that money was available for this specific type of activity. And if it was, then maybe all of it could even come from there, or a portion of it, and the bid would make up the difference. But not knowing which, the protocol for the CVBs administering their events funds right now, that's how the bid board took action on that as a contingency.
So Dave, I guess I still need clarification then. So are we, if we approve this motion tonight, we are paying the $7,000 to then be reimbursed by the CVB, should that be approved, even though it's our dollars that the CVB gets? Or is this on hold if approved pending CVB?
So the request was, or the discussion was, is that the CVB provide the money if they have it prior to the city issuing a check. If they don't, then the bid board would make it up. And then there's also the reimbursement aspect of it, is if Dakota State is able to locate some COVID-related or federal funds to help supplant their loss of revenue based on not being able to have the event as they typically would. So that's the second piece of it. That's the reimbursement piece. But if the CVB can't provide it, it would come out of the bid funds.
Any more commission discussion?
This is Commissioner Mybom. I believe, is it Commissioner Benson who is on the CVB board? I'm just curious to know what happened, or if anything happened in 2020 as far as grant funds that may or may not have been expended, simply because there weren't any events. But I believe the assumption at the time was probably fair, that there may have been funds that weren't expended, and potentially if there are funds that the CVB could pay towards this new event that happened in Yankton.
So there is an application process that happens for new events that come through the CVB. I have not seen something come through for this particular event. It's not ever granted to that amount of money in the normal process. So I do think there's probably possibly a opportunity for some funds to come from the CVB, but I think they'll have to go through the normal application process, and it would have to be approved by the advisory board.
This is Commissioner Brunick. I'm also curious about the COVID reimbursement to Dakota State, is my understanding on that, and how that would work if we are to approve this payment, and then what is to say that they are going to pursue that? It seems like the series of steps should be that should be pursued to begin with, to see if it would qualify for the reimbursement, and if it doesn't, then we start looking at, because we did benefit by having this come to our community. But if they could be reimbursed through COVID reimbursement plan, I think that would be the first course of action.
That was discussed at the bid board briefly. The line of thought process, I guess, that went into that was that money might not actually be known to be available until late fall, over the winter even, because it'll be a 2021 allocation. That's part of all the federal money that may or may not be available, that entities just like the city of Yankton and the universities are trying to figure out what they may or may not be eligible for. So the bid board's recommendation was to kind of function on the honor system there, and we'll definitely check in with them to make sure that they follow up, but not knowing whether or not that funding may be available until later in the year was kind of a determining factor on them just including that reimbursement clause in their recommendation.
I think the CVB discussion is complicated now because of the transition process going on there in leadership. So that's created some uncertainty, but the bid board seems to have discussed this thoroughly. They seem to have addressed many of the questions we brought up tonight and thought it was a worthy expense. And they are a group that is very intentional about what they've done. I've attended plenty of their meetings. Any more commission discussion? There's no one in the audience. Dave, any YouTube comments?
There are no comments on YouTube.
Al, roll call, please.
This is roll call on new business item 4-4. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom's aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Brunig.
Brunick, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-4 passes 9-0.
Number 5 under new business is consideration of memorandum 21-51 regarding the bid award for the annual supply of bituminous mix for the Department of Public Works. The low bid is $71 per ton from Concrete Materials. What is your pleasure?
So moved, Mosier.
Benson, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? There's no one in the audience, so Dave, I will go to you. Any YouTube comments?
No comments on YouTube.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
This is roll call on new business item 4-5. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier's aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson's aye. Brunig.
Brunick, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda's aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-5 passes 9-0.
Number 6 under new business is consideration of memorandum 21-52 regarding resolution 21-24 to surplus a 2020 police Ford Explorer. What is your pleasure?
Brunick, so moved. Sarda, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? There's still no one in the audience, so Dave, I will go to you. Any YouTube comments?
No comments on YouTube.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
This is roll call on new business item 4-6. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Benson.
Benson, I.
Benson's aye. Brunig.
Brunig, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda's aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier's aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-6 passes 7-0.
Number 7 under new business is consideration of memorandum 21-53 regarding the bid award for the Spruce Street project, which would go from 4th to 6th Streets. The low bid is $474,150.67 from D&G Concrete Construction. What is your pleasure?
Schramm, so moved.
Brunig, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item?
I just have a question, and I really don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but these bids are kind of all over the board. With the winning bid coming in $240,000, almost $241,000 lower than the engineering estimate. Is there a reason for that? I mean, I know we do a lot of work with D&G, so is that just that they can group bid, or what is with the difference in that? Like I said, I'm not thinking this is not a good deal. I'm just curious.
That's a very good question. I think we're going to see that numbers all over the board this year with all of our projects consistent with that. It is a fair price, and it's probably a little more on the what we were seeing last year or 2 years ago side. And I know I've heard there is companies that need work, so that could be a reason. I don't know their exact situation or reason, and sometimes some contractors get better rates from vendors than others, and so it is a good number, and they've done great work for us in the past, and looks good. So.
Yeah, I wasn't questioning their work. I just was curious the
Yep.
difference.
Yeah.
Yes, we will enjoy projects coming in under the engineer's estimate while we can. Any more commission discussion? All right, there's no one in the audience. Dave, any comments on YouTube?
No comments on YouTube.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
This is roll call on new business item 4-7. Benson.
Benson, I.
Benson's aye. Brunig.
Brunig, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda's aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier's aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-7 passes 7-0.
All right, that exhausts tonight's agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Benson, so moved.
Brunig, second.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. And any abstaining. This meeting is adjourned. Take care, everyone.